nice to have all of you with us. My name is Raout Barak-Wicks, and I'm the academic head of the Glocal program. We're really excited to have our first information session for this year. And we're really excited to have all of you with us to get to know a bit more about our program. So welcome. We're going to have about 50 minutes that will include a very short talk by me, a mini lecture by one of our greatest lecturers, Dr. Emilia Weldrack, about gender and development. We're going to have a talk from our internship advisors, who will explain a bit about the Glocal's programs highlight, the field internship students do with organizations in the field. And we're going to hear from both students and alumni. So, and then of course you have time for questions. If you have any question in the meantime, you can always write in the chat and our staff will answer. And I will gradually introduce our staff as we move along. So welcome everyone. And I see people here coming from really so many places around the world. It's really very exciting. So welcome. So the Glocal International Masters in International Development, it's a master level program. It's the Faculty of Social Sciences at the Hebrew University. Now, what is international development and why do we have a master's in international development in Jerusalem? I assume that if you're with us, it's because you feel that the world that you live in or the society that you live next to is not in its best. You think that it can be a better place. You can think that it can be a place that is a bit more just and fair and that provides more opportunities for people in need, and that it's a place that should be with greater appreciation for the local assets that exist in the different communities. If this is how you think about the world, so we are the program for you. The Glocal International Program International Development teaches international development and provides also practical tools and capacities to work directly with disadvantaged communities that are either very close to you or different than yours. As I mentioned, it's a master's level program. It's taught in 18 months. You spend the first year studying at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem with students who come from all around the world. In every cohort, we have about 30 students coming from 10 to 12 countries. And you study together with other students who have experience of working with disadvantaged communities or volunteering with them and come from a great variety of fields. We have students coming from law, from arts, from dance, agriculture, water management, anthropology, public policy, and you really get introduced into the field of international development through a great variety of lenses and fields, learning together with many other people who are very similar to you. Now, during the studies, you have quite a bit of mandatory courses, but not all of them are academic. Many of them are academic. For instance, I teach economics. I'm an economist in training. We have courses in ethics. We have courses that relate to community building. We have a great variety of electives in gender, environmental management, public health, and a great variety of courses. And we have also very practical courses. So you learn firsthand on project design, on project cycle. You learn program evaluation. How do you check that the intervention that you want to carry is actually good? It's actually making what you wanted to make, right? And there are different workshops that help you to plan budgets, to build websites, and different tools that are relevant for the field. The program is built in a way that the second year comes the highlight of the program, the 4 months field internship, where students actually reach the ground, reach organizations that serve communities in different environments, depending on their own interests, and practice working in the field with disadvantaged communities according to their interest. And soon enough, our internship advisors will explain more about it, and you'll hear from them. And after after the internship ends, you return to the program, to Jerusalem, to complete with the program seminar, where you take all the experience that you've gained and you look at it in light of the theoretical background that you've gained before. Where does the theory and experience actually meet? We spoke about poverty alleviation. I walked down the street and I saw poverty, and I want now to understand how do this relate to each other, right? How does the poverty theory relate to what I saw in the field? And also this gives you tools to actually advance in the career. In the end of the day, we all want to work, and our Glocal program is very hands-on, and you receive very good tools on the right directions towards working in the field of international development. In addition to that, we have specialization tracks. We have a specialization track in gender and development, and Dr. Emilia Weldrack will give you a short talk of one of the courses that is in this track, and you're able to build like a knowledge base specifically in the field of gender and development and do your practical internship in this field as well. And we are planning to open other specialization tracks in the coming year, potentially one in migration and development, and maybe one in conflict and development, but it will happen, but it's not yet approved. In addition, very small selected group of students who are very good are able to take the research track and write a thesis in addition to their master's. So you can do a regular master's in international development, which is, believe me, challenging enough. But if you really want to stay in academia, if it's really important for you to pursue research, then you can do also a thesis as part of the local program and specialize your academic knowledge in the field of community development or international development in a variety of fields. So that's about us. Maybe 2 words about the Glocal program in the times of COVID. So we're an international program with very hands-on practical elements, and it's also very important for us that students will get to know each other and experience peer learning as much as possible. And in the past year, together with everybody else, we've been dealing with the constraints of the COVID pandemic. And I just want to tell you that what I promised our students that came to us last year was that we'll do everything in our power to make sure that they still manage to meet, they still interact and study as much as possible face-to-face, and get the actual experience of studying together with students in the international sphere as possible. And this is what happened. So this year we have 28 students coming from 13 countries, I think. We did some of our teaching online and some of our teaching in campus, outdoor, because this is what we could. And students got to know each other. We had a few tours of the country, and we're planning many more. And we have quite a lot of sessions where students had to work together in groups or couples, and this way get to know each other better. And I'm sure you'll hear more from our students soon enough. And also our internships. While many of our internships took place locally and not internationally because of the very big uncertainty that existed in the month before the internship period, still students really learned about the complexity of the field of working in community development and really experienced working with communities, while some actually managed to travel abroad and do the internship internationally. And so we are really about giving local knowledge to the people on the ground in order for them to be able to work together with local communities. And we will do that even if the COVID constrains us a little bit, but we'll still be able to do that. And for now, I'm really very excited to introduce Dr. Emilia Weldrack, who has been teaching at Glocal for quite a few years and is also a senior lecturer at University of Texas. And she's going to give us just a taste of her lectures on gender and development, specifically on women's relationship to wood and water in rural areas. Thanks. Thank you so much, Amy. You are on mute.
I am unmuted now. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah? Is this better? Is this better now? Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you.
So I wanted to start by saying what is sometimes more common that we hear when we're talking about gender, especially in university classrooms. And I think these days it can head much more into theoretical or political realm in the developed world, in the global north. A lot of focus on intersectionality or post-colonial theory, looking at urban protest movements, maybe thinking about issues that face contemporary women who are financially well off, like parental leave. There's a lot of focus on gender orientation and gender fluidity. So it might come as somewhat a surprise to think about what women's relationship is to wood and water. So what I'm doing is bringing you into the global south, into villages and areas that don't have the infrastructure that we have in our urban modern cities in the global north. And it's still a big part of the population of the world. And it's part of the overall understanding of women's role in agriculture. So I want to start briefly by just mentioning some facts to give you orientation about women's role in agriculture, even if we're in a globalizing world, even if the world is becoming more urban, and it really is. Women on average still comprise 43% of the agricultural labor force in developing countries. So that's a lot. What that looks like in different contexts could be quite different, but it means women are involved in that labor and it's incredibly time consuming. They're responsible for 60 to 80% of food production on average, but often that is not recognized. And a lot of women are also livestock keepers. The current tally is around 600 million poor livestock keepers, which is something that when students are heading into international development or thinking about gender and development, they might not have these facts at hand. But even with all those responsibilities and the importance of women in agriculture, women own still less than a quarter of agricultural land. And when they do own the land, it's much, much smaller. So this is a little bit of the context before we get into wood and water as natural resources that I argue are gendered, very strongly gendered. So I want to start with wood. So women in the global south, especially in rural areas, cook on wood that produces a lot of smoke. So wood strategies are often related to saving money, keeping the household running, and the priority isn't on a focus on health or the environment. And sometimes the wood is, the inexpensive wood has a lot of oils in it and it has a lot of dark smoke. But the other element that's a health concern that is often overlooked that I want to point out now is that a lot of that wood burning is happening indoors, sometimes in small homes or shacks or interior kitchens without ventilation. But it's not only the health of the women who are using that wood and breathing in that contaminated air, but collecting and carrying the wood and getting it to burn is often an incredibly time-consuming daily task that takes away from other areas of women's development, like education or other involvement in agriculture, or even spending time with children or becoming involved in community events. So the smoke is seen as an essential element. The smoke is welcomed in a lot of these smaller rural homes because it helps with food storage. It prevents rats or insects or fungus. So it's seen as something that's needed, but it's still incredibly dangerous to breathe in. One of the estimates is that a day spent near one of these open flames with the smoke for just cooking, for fires, is equivalent to smoking 400 cigarettes a day in some instances. That's hard to measure, but that's one of the alarming estimates that's out there. Women move indoors a lot of times to take care of these wood burning activities with cooking or sometimes boiling water for cleaning or other things to minimize the loss of heat from wind. And so I'm bringing you into this world that's vividly different for many of you. Maybe some of you have seen instances like this, and that would be interesting to hear. And in the Glocal classes, there's often a chance for students to really exchange perspectives or experiences depending on the worlds in which they grew up. But we all become aware of some of the health concerns or time management issues that women face in the global south that a lot of times as a group we're not familiar with. But for Wood, I want to end with a quick anecdote. There was a Glocal student who had taken the gender course, and he was working on a completely different project in Cambodia in a youth library, developing with youth in the community an English-speaking language library for study and for learning. But he couldn't unsee this detail about wood-burning stoves in interior homes in rural areas. And when he was walking around with some of the youth, he asked about it and they said, yes, it is a problem. And even though his project was completely different, he worked with youth who were interested in basic engineering to create a ventilator using an electric fan to draw out some of that smoke to see if the air quality improved and figuring out ways of measuring it. So it became an asset-based community development intervention within families. And in that village in Cambodia today, they're using these basic ventilators. And this was a project that came together with a Glocal student and local youth. So I want to move on to water, which is a little bit more well known as a problem, actually. And the relationship between water and time use is more well known and more publicized. So this is a quote from the World Health Organization. When water is not on the premises and needs to be collected, it's our women and girls who are mostly paying with their time and lost opportunities. And it sometimes takes hours to do a round trip to get to a source of clean water and bring it back to the home, either for bathing or for cooking or for agriculture. And one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals for water and sanitation, this is Goal 6, calls for universal, equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water by 2030. And I don't think we're there yet. But when you think of water, you might not necessarily think of women and girls, but I want you to start thinking about that because the pattern is quite clear. So as part of this goal, as at the first step for a sustainable development goal, the UN wants basic service within a 30-minute round trip. It's not always possible to have water at hand, but the long-term goal is to ensure that everybody has safe water available at home. Sometimes these things have to come in stages. But for right now, understanding how long it takes to get clean water is important. And water, like wood, is essential for cleaning, bathing, washing clothes, watering animals, irrigating crops, big and small. And water is becoming scarce in many areas where there's desertification, and it's increasingly polluted. And standing water caused by irrigation increases risks of mosquito-borne illnesses. So it's an area of life that needs careful attention. And sometimes wells get, even if with the best intention, if a well is built near somebody's home, it can be contaminated by arsenic, and there's often no way of easily testing that. The technology is not there. So it depends on where you live, how long these water journeys take. And there are people who have, walked with women, and it is a time for women and girls to talk and connect. But it can actually take away not only the possibility of attending school for part of the day, but sometimes attending school at all. Some of the countries that are especially affected by this water access that disproportionately falls on women and girls, Somalia, Tunisia, Yemen. Tanzania also has problems in some areas, but in general, women are involved in at least double the amount of time of water collection and bringing back and monitoring than men are. And the goal of clean running water is not something that feels accessible or even imaginable in some of the more rural villages. what's interesting about this is women are often the first ones to notice environmental problems related to water. They're on the front line, really, in terms of bathing and food preparation and cleaning, sometimes water used for pregnancy or giving birth or breastfeeding, or noticing family illnesses. They'll be the first one to notice if something is wrong with the water, if it's giving people or children diarrhea. And there's an incredible community resource there for women and girls who manage water and actually know quite a bit about local contamination. Now, something else that's interesting is that as the presence of the tourist industry starts to penetrate even rural areas or semi-rural areas, this really changes water consumption. And bathing practices, flush toilets are sometimes necessary to maintain and attract and maintain tourists, washing massive amounts of towels and bedding. Sometimes it even gets into swimming pools or golf courses that we need to be concerned about. Now, this isn't always the case for very rural villages, but increasingly an economic strategy in rural areas is to see if there could be some kind of tourist development. And I want to conclude with water with another Glocal student story. I had a student who was working in a South African village that was looking at, it was quite remote. And the student actually had a chance to take walks with some of her the women and girls in the community to see what it felt like to go down to a water source and bring water back up and learn how to carry it on her head. Water can be managed in different ways, but there still are traditional groups that use containers to balance on the head, either plastic or sometimes ceramic. And the community was looking into having a community garden, but also thinking of having a tourist site. And in walking and talking and spending time with the women, it became clear that they had to scale down and think about the scope of their development project in a realistic way that wouldn't affect women and girls negatively. So it's possible that there would have been more water coming in for different projects, but that also would have meant more time taken away from schooling for girls and women being able to diversify the way that they spent their time. So she was an important part of a conversation that was quite fraught. And men and women in the community had different ideas about what the outcome should be. But eventually they did scale it down to start with a community garden and then see if they could do fundraising for running water. And only after that step had been met, start to head into bigger tourist projects. So in conclusion, so that's just a snapshot of Wood and Water. I hope that it was somewhat new to some of you. I would assume that it is, because it's not something that gets talked about a lot in the developed world, because frankly, it doesn't feel relevant. One of the things that's special about Glocal is that a lot of human experiences that are remote from where we are geographically become really relevant. In this particular gender and development class, it's different every year in the sense that one of the ways it's structured is that teams of students choose a contemporary problem-based case study to study throughout the semester. And it has to be in the developing world, and they have to see what solutions have been proposed and if or how the success has been measured. So it's never the same class for me either. I'm constantly learning about new issues, but we always start with these bread and butter problems related to wood or water or environmental quality and understand what are some of the patterns that exist across the global south. So thank you, and I hope that I see some of you in my gender and development class. I don't know the schedule for the coming year. It's been both in the fall or in the spring, but I'm sure I'll find out. And my information is available if you want more details about either of these studies or how the class is structured and run. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. I really appreciate this talk. I think it's given us not only a stream of thought towards new directions, but also to what degree this is related to the practical work that people do. And I think this is definitely a good example of the things that we're talking about, not only discussing the differences between let's say, the relationship and the roles of women and men in the household between countries, but also what do we do practically in the local asset-based like approach in order to promote and make things easier for people. Thank you so much for this talk. And generally being part of Glocal, which is fun. Following from that and giving you just a little bit more understanding of what the internship component is about, I'm really happy to introduce you to Mrs. Virginie Mateo Tabub and Mrs. Marianne Frankel, who are our internship advisors, and they will talk a little bit more about what the internships are all about. Thank you.
Hi. So thanks, Reut, and thank Dr. Weinberg. It was very fascinating. So my name is Marianne Frankel, and along with my colleague Virginie here, we are the internship advisor for Glocal. I have to say that I graduated from Glocal about 10 years ago. I did my internship in Tanzania in an organization called Women Legal Aid Center. And since I graduated, I worked mainly in East Africa, and I returned back to Israel about a year ago and rejoined Glocal. And I'm very happy to see that many of you are interested in the program. I think it's a great program, not only the internship component, which is the best part, but in general. So what is the Glocal internship program? As you heard from Reut before, with Glocal, we really emphasize the importance of hands-on experience and the combination between academic knowledge and practical skills. And the internship is a four-month-long program that will take place in the kind of the third semester after you do an entire year of very rigorous and intense academic studies. You will probably travel somewhere. Hopefully, if COVID will allow you, the students will travel to another location and do their internship in a community development organization. I think Joanne asked before, she mentioned that it's a very varied and wide field, and she's right, it is. And also the internship take place in varied places. So for example, this year we have students that interned with last year, that interned with the local NGOs, with international NGOs. We also have students that intern with the social businesses. And it really depends on what the student is interested in, the background, the student's background, and also their skills and where are they aiming, where do they want their career to take place, and what in which field. So for example, we have students that intern in varied sectors like education, agriculture, public health, gender, art, development. And we also have students that take different roles. Students have they do projects that are related to research, to advocacy, to training. So it's very varied, and I think it's great because you can really learn different skills from it. So from the one hand, you can kind of stay within the things that you already know, that your strength, but you also develop new skills. You will hear it a lot if you join Glocal. You will get out of your comfort zone and learn new things in new places. So the internship period is 4 months, intense, 5 days a week. It's intense. You are usually out of your community in a foreign country, in a foreign community. And it's a very unique period because it gives you an opportunity to work alongside with local communities. And I, for example, worked with a Women Legal Aid Center in Mwanza area in Tanzania. It's a legal organization. I don't have any legal background, but it taught me the skills of M&E. I studied M&E as a part of Glocal, and then I took the skills I learned in Glocal, and I had the opportunity to really implement it in my internship. And the process of the internship looked like Virginia and myself, the internship advisors. We work on 2 levels. Like I think most things in Glocal, we work on the one hand, we work with the students as a group in a class. So we have a course that is called first step for professionalism in the field, where we discuss, we kind of analyze and we map the field of international development. We understand the different type of organizations, we understand the different types of roles and the different type of sectors that in the future people will be able to work in. We kind of understand how this field looks like in real, not from the academia. Virginie and I are both practitioners. Virginie, she will introduce herself later, but we both have field experience, so we can share with you our experience on how this sector look like. And apart from this course, we work with students individually. So we really make sure that each student have the opportunity to identify what are they really interested in, how do they want their internship to look like, what kind of skills they want to learn in this time. So it's really these two levels of work, which is, I think, also it happens in many other courses in Glocal, but especially in our course, in the first steps for professionalism in the field and during the internship. So it's the work in a group as a class and the individual work. And I'd like to give you an example of, I'll share my screen. You can see it, it's shared. Oh, sorry, here. Just a quick example of internships that took place in 2020. So we had people interning in the China Development Research Foundation, and they did research and advocacy. We have 2 students that interned in Israel, in Tel Aviv, the headquarters in Tel Aviv, and in Greece, and they did things that are related to operations and program. We had 2 students in Sinsila in East Jerusalem that worked really hands-on program with the community center of Sinsila that works with the community in East Jerusalem. And we had a student that interned in Kaima farm in Mwanza area in Tanzania, and she worked with at-risk youth. And she has a strong background in agriculture, and she worked with the youth of the area, teaching them all kind of agriculture methods that she learned in Israel. And she also worked with them. She did some research, like in the field itself, to understand which crops is better to grow there. And this is from 2020. And we also had Yael. Yael is an Israeli. She interned with HDI, Health Development Initiative, in Rwanda. It's a local organization that works on health. And with them, she did mainly research about sexual and reproductive health of women and girls. And I think she had the opportunity to go to the field in Rwanda. She had a translator. She worked alongside with the community, but she also had a chance to understand how research is linked to policy. So she went to the community, she did research about different elements, different aspects of reproductive health, and then she went and produced a report, and later on HDI took this report to policymakers and advocate for certain changes using the report that Yael gave them. And Dr. Barak mentioned before that 2020, some of our students did their internship in Israel. And I would like to give you an example of Noor. And Noor did her internship with the Musawa Center in Haifa in Israel. And she worked on advocacy, international advocacy. So the Musawa Center is an advocacy center for Arab citizens in Israel. And she worked alongside local communities to understand what kind of change they want to see within the Israeli policy, and what kind of change needs to happen within the policies to enable local communities to thrive. And she did a research, and then she went and advocated for this research with with the different embassies, with European embassies. She worked alongside the UN, she worked alongside the EU officials, and it was a very meaningful experience for her. And I think that I have to say that what I learned in 2020 about internship, usually, you know, when I did my internship very far, I'm Israeli and I did my internship in Tanzania, which is very, very far from where I grew up. But this year I have to say that I learned that what I learned in Glocal is relevant not only for communities in other places, but it's very, very relevant for my own community. So these tools that students learn are relevant whether they decide to work abroad with foreign communities or if they decide to work with their own communities. And I think this is it for me. I don't know, Virginie would like to add anything?
Good evening all. So I don't think I will add very much. I think you had a great picture given by Mayan. Maybe just to introduce myself, I'm the second internship advisor. I'm also a field worker like Mayan. I've worked mainly in humanitarian and development organization abroad. I am not an Israeli, as you can hear from my name and my accent. And I joined Glocal some time ago. I do the same work than Mayan. And what I want to emphasize is that for those of you who will apply, what we propose as an internship advisor is a really individualized process of professional development. And we count on your full professional accountability. We really help you to be ready when you will be graduated to work. So not only to have the skills to work, but also to have a network and to know how to activate your network to find the position of your dream. And our work as an internship advisor is continued by the final seminar that you undertake once you are back from your field internship. And that concludes all what you have learned within the academic year and within the field experience. The internship for us, the internship is really a learning experience. And we, Mayan and I, are here to support your professional and personal question along the process. So we are really looking forward to having you with us next year. I think that's all on my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayan and Virginie, for this really great pitch and a bit of a feeling of how it is to be an alumna who comes back to be a staff member. And we're really very, very lucky to have Mayan with us and Virginie as well. I think having the international perspective in our program is really significant also in our staff. And so we're really lucky to have Virginie with her technical background supporting the students' internships. Thank you. So I'm really happy to introduce you to Nomi Burke, our student marketing coordinator. She's one of the more crucial people here in our application process. And before she introduces some students and later alumni that will tell you a bit about their personal experience, we want to share with you a video prepared by the students of cohort 9 about their own internship. So relax and enjoy a little bit of musical break.
Kenya,
Palestine,
Israel,
Rwanda,
Uganda,
Zanzibar,
Jerusalem,
Morocco,
Ethiopia,
Uganda,
Israel, South Africa,
Ethiopia,
Malawi,
Israel, Ramle,
Uganda,
Israel,
Rwanda.
Bagari.
Vivi cucinate. Bagari.
Now it's touching.
Hi, everyone. My name is Naomi, and I'm the Marketing and Student Coordinator. And part of my role is to help you settle into life in Israel and life in the university. So I hope to see many of you soon. And I'm just going to introduce to you two students from cohort 11. There's Tamar and Jeffrey. So I think Tamar will introduce herself first and share with you just a little bit about her experience in Glocal and a bit about her background. So yeah, Tamar, you can speak.
Thanks, Naomi. Hi, everyone. I'm Tamar Aronson. I'm originally from the US, from New York. I moved here in September when I began at Glocal. I got to Glocal because I've been really passionate about human trafficking work and advocacy since I was in high school. And I was always really interested in doing anti-trafficking policy. And then I started to shift into more looking at the root causes of trafficking. And I became really passionate about finding creative solutions to systemic problems. And that's kind of the niche of development. And so I shifted my work to there. I got to do some development work in Rwanda and in Malawi, focusing on education and on gender equality. And that's what brought me here to Glocal. I really liked the idea of being in a cohort where we took our classes together. We were able to work off of one another's experiences, and also that it was an international program. So not only was I hearing about people's work experiences or their educational experiences, but also their life experiences and getting perspectives that I never had back in the States. And that's kind of been my favorite thing since being in the program this past semester is even though we were on Zoom or we were socially distanced, it was really nice to be able to kind of build up that relationship with my fellow students and get to know them a little bit better and get insight and perspective into issues that I learned about for so long, but had never actually gotten to hear the personal side of it. And what's been the most interesting is that I started doing development work before I had learned much about development. And I found that in all of my classes, it's related back to the experiences that I had in the developing projects that I was a part of, and now influences my thinking in the projects that I will be a part of.
Thank you so much, Tamar. And yeah, I'd love to introduce you to Jeffrey now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Geoffrey. I am from Uganda. I did development before because I come from central Uganda and I was born in slums, grew up in slums. So I was working with an organization that worked with children, women in the community, and I saw how hard it was for children to acquire education and for women to sustain their lives. So I looked for a program that has Glocal has a perspective of global, then local. So that was very, very important for me that it respects local initiatives. That's why I chose Glocal. And I like Glocal, I like the program for the time I am in because the lecturers, the students, everyone tries their best to see that they help each other, and the courses really reflect the life experiences in the communities. So that's why I love Glocal for the time I've been in the program.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. And yeah, I think I'm going to introduce you to Shaya, our internship, not internship, our alumni advisor. Can't hear you very well.
No, we can't hear you, Shaya. No.
Is that now?
No,
yes. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Naomi. And hello, everyone. It's really exciting to see all the faces. So I'm Shaya. I'm also a Glocal alumni from a few years ago. Right now, I'm the Alumni Coordinator. I saw there was a question about it. So as Naomi said, we have a very lively network. Even in these days, we're doing events online. In normal years, we also meet. And we have here two alumni with us. We'll start with Daniela. Daniela is a Glocal alum from cohort 9. She lives in Mexico City, and I will leave you to do the rest of the talking.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm actually from the cohort of that video, so it was really exciting and emotional to me to watch that video. So yeah, I joined Glocal. I studied psychology, that's my background. But studying psychology, I started doing a lot of different type of work. I did a little bit of market research because I was interested in consumer psychology, but then I was like, okay, I'm sure I want to do something more socially oriented. So then I started working in an NGO that did policy. Then I worked in politics. So I started to get all these like different experiences, and I realized psychology was really interesting, but that was such a narrow scope of intervention for me. So I started looking into other possibilities. Someone told me about Glocal. And as soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it. It just like combined everything that I was looking for. But really, I didn't know what to expect because also I wasn't familiarized at all with the field of development. And then I arrived and I remember exactly the first week when I met everyone at the orientation week, and I told Shana, which was in admissions, like, you did an amazing job choosing every single student. Like, honestly, every single person had something amazing to bring to the table. Everyone had different backgrounds. So I was from psychology, but I was the only one that actually studied psychology. I had friends from communications, policy, agriculture. So just imagine talking about the same subject, but from different perspectives in terms professionally and context-wise. It's just such a big combination of experiences that really nurture your learning process. It's what teachers teach you, but also what students do. I did my internship in Uganda with workers. We were aiming to understand a little bit more about their motivations and how that impact their performance, and also how their work was influencing on under 5 mortality rates. And it was a very interesting experience. I was based in Kampala, but I was doing field work on and off in different communities around Kampala. it was definitely very, very challenging, because it's not only challenging professionally, but it's also challenging in terms of, it's really challenging emotionally. It's really challenging in so many ways, but it's definitely one of the experiences that had made me grow the most. And what's amazing is that you also get a group of people, a network of all your local friends that are in the same situation as you. So it's not the same when you're telling your friends or family like what you're experiencing in your internship, and then being able to actually talk to someone that's living the same as you, maybe in another country, but really they're really like a big support system. And for me, being from Mexico and so far away in Israel, just really, well, and then in Uganda, really feeling that I had a family and people to lean on was really, really amazing. And then I came back to Israel after the internship, and we actually were the last cohort before Corona hit. So we finished our classes, I think, a week before they did the first lockdown. And well, I went back to Mexico, and I think for me, what I realized after all my experience in Glocal were many things, but I think what it gave me the most was like a really concise toolkit and practical tools. Because when I studied psychology, it's like, okay, this is really interesting, but what do I do with this now professionally if I don't want to be a clinical psychologist? Like, I don't know what tools do I have. And when I graduated Glocal, it's like, okay, now I really know how to design a project, to take it into action, how to monitor it, how to evaluate it. Like, I felt I had really precise tools. And actually that did happen when I got my first job interview when I came back to Mexico. Currently, I'm a campaigns director at change.org, a petitions platform. And it's basically about advocacy and citizen empowerment. And what they asked me to do on my interview process was to create a project and how to scale citizens campaigns. And really what I was doing was exactly what I was doing with Yossi, who's the teacher for project design. I did a logic framework, I did a theory of change, all these concepts that are how you conceptualize change, what steps you need to take in order for change to happen. All of it, I had to do it on my job interview. And it was like so nice to see that I had those tools. And I got the job. I'm currently there. And I do feel every day I'm putting into practice not only what I learn technically, but also what I learn in terms of how I see the world. Like I've always been a critical thinker and try to analyze what's happening there. But I think after Glocal, I can't see the world the same. Like I'm extremely critical with the social situations, trying to deconstruct myself, trying to deconstruct what's happening around me. So I think, yeah, Glocal really shaped me in so many aspects of my life. And yeah, I really, really recommend it.
Great, Daniela. Thank you so much. Thank you, Daniela. I don't know if, yeah, you can hear me. Okay. And now we will have Ahmed Yassin. Ahmed is from cohort 5. It's 2015, a few years ago. He's a Palestinian from Ramallah. And Ahmed, the floor is yours, or the screen.
Thank you, Shaya. It's very exciting to be back and speak with a cohort of Glocal. Actually, we graduated in 2015, but we started a bit before, or early 2016. Anyway, thank you, Emilia. I would like to start my talk into dividing it into two sections. I'd like to give a word for the international students who are here today, and also for the locals. I'd like to say for the internationals that this is a truly an amazing opportunity to be in a unique area such as Jerusalem, Palestine / Israel. This is an area where development / underdevelopment concepts can be a bit confusing for you, but then you will understand what I mean when you experience the community, when you experience the area. So be a bit critical and skeptical of what does a developed country and an underdeveloped country means once you're here. It is a program that really gives you a unique knowledge that can be applied in various fields. And Glocal has given me the tools and the experience that has formed the foundation of knowledge for me, in which I was able to work in areas of humanitarian work, in areas of development projects with youth, with women, with different aspects of the community. But also, and recently, Glocal was the magical word and program for me that has got me into the cultural field, something that I didn't really expect to do during my career. But then once I started thinking about Glocal as the foundation of knowledge, and I started thinking about the different type of fields as the tools for changing the community into a positive and a better community, then Glocal will be your main asset that you start using around the different projects, organizations, and fields that you work in. So make sure that
we can't see you. Just if you can. Yeah, this is better.
Yeah, can you see me now?
Yeah, thanks.
Good. Perfect. So if you're coming from abroad, make sure that you live the experience to the best, and try to take as much knowledge as you can. For those who are joining from the country, from Israel, Palestine, I think Glocal has opened my eyes on how little we knew, or I knew, about the different causes and the different countries, assuming that we Palestinian Israelis think that we're the center of this world, which turns out that we're not. So hearing all these amazing stories from Latin America, Africa, and Eastern Europe, and other different countries is really something that opens somebody's knowledge and eyes into taking examples and other theories and applying them into the country. Not only this, but Glocal has emphasized personally in me the importance of developing someone's community first, and giving a priority to the own development of someone's community before actually trying to look at different other communities abroad and try to apply theories in there. And so basically Glocal has given me the self-critique of the way we look at our communities, but also the way that we look at the world. And Glocal has given me the chance to see how people look at us as well. So my last conclusion advice would be to make sure to understand that everything that is being given to you at Glocal will be utilized some way, sometime, somehow in your field, and the experiences and the networks that you'll be doing will definitely be back at you in projects, networks, and different work that you'll be doing. And the proof is that, you know, what I'm doing personally with alumni from Glocal, different alumni, or the projects that we're doing internally, externally. So this is it for me. I'd leave my contacts in the chat for anybody who has inquiries or questions about the program, tips for the internship. You know, anything, anybody who'd like to contact with me, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much, and it's good to see you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. It's great to see you and hear from you. And I think...
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Thank you, Shaya. And thank you, Daniela and Ahmed and Jeffrey and Tamar. And I have to tell you that really Glocal students is the greatest assets of the program. And we're really so lucky to have such wonderful students and alumni. So thanks so much for joining us. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. Please contact us on email or look at our website. Thanks so much. Bye.